You're a slimy con man facing prison time and absolutely terrified of becoming someone's target. But what if you could turn things around, training to become a martial arts master to not just survive but thrive behind bars? That's the outrageous premise of Big Stan, a comedy that's equal parts action, laughs, and an unexpected journey of self-discovery. Buckle up, because this is one wild ride you don't want to miss. The movie begins with Stan living the high life as a conman. He's filthy rich and deeply in love with his beautiful wife Mindy. He is scamming elderly people out of their savings without a care in the world. But his perfect little scheme comes crashing down when he's caught and found guilty. Facing prison time, Stan panics. He fires his lawyer, thinking he can hire someone better, someone who can bribe the judge and get him off the hook. Things don't go as planned. Stan is sentenced to 3 to 5 years in prison but is given 6 months to get his affairs in order. Panicked, Stan turns to his lawyer for advice. The lawyer suggests he take a long vacation and never come back. But there's a problem: his assets are frozen. With no escape and his fears of prison life growing, Stan knows he needs to prepare for what's coming. With only 6 months before he has to report to prison, he's desperate to prepare for the harsh reality of life behind bars. Stan has no way to leave the country. He's forced to wait for his imprisonment, consumed by fear and regret. As the days pass, he grows more anxious, rushing to make the most of his remaining time. Later that day, Stan and his wife were on a date while she offered some unexpected advice. She tells him to use the 6 months before prison to get her pregnant so she won't feel lonely while he's away. Stan, still panicking about his future, reluctantly disagrees. Ask her to get a dog instead. But his fears of what might happen behind bars keep him from fully focusing on starting a family. Later that evening, Stan goes to a bar to clear his head. While sipping his drink, he notices a rough-looking man covered in prison tattoos sitting at the counter. Desperate for advice, Stan walks over and offers the man $100 just to share some tips on how to survive in prison. The man paints a grim picture. Prison guards don't care about inmate violence or deaths as long as no one escapes. He warns Stan that someone like him will likely be targeted. Sexually horrified, Stan realizes that his fears about prison life might be true. The man advises Stan to join one of the prison cliques, like the Nazis, racists, or the Italians. You know, the mob types. There's the Latinos or the African-American family. But Stan doesn't fit into any of these categories. The man's final advises him to kill someone early on to scare off potential predators. The next morning, Stan wakes up hungover, realizing the bar conversation wasn't a bad dream. Mindy reminds him, "That wasn't a dream, Stan. That's your reality.
You're going to prison in 6 months."
She tries to cheer him up, saying he always finds a way to overcome challenges. Stan decides to transform himself into an alpha male within the next 6 months. Stan throws himself into a routine. He exercises daily and even gets a tattoo on his behind to make himself less appealing to predators. And also joins a karate class, hoping to learn self-defense. However, he quickly grows impatient with the basics and challenges the instructor, leading to a fight with another student after causing a scene where Stan is kicked out of the dojo. Now back to square one. Stan's desperation to prepare for prison only grew. He meets an old man claiming to be the master. The man is eccentric, with one push on a wall, to say the least, but he promised to teach Stan how to fight and survive in prison. Desperate, Stan jumped at the opportunity. He invites the master to live with him and Mindy to train him in self-defense. But things didn't go over well with his wife. The moment the master arrived, he started smoking everywhere. The living room, the kitchen, even the bathroom. Mindy was furious, constantly complaining about the smell and the ashes scattered across the house. The master moves in and starts an unconventional training program on the first day. The master wakes Stan at 5 a.m. by pouring animal liver blood on his face. Despite the tension at home, the master started training Stan in the most unconventional ways. From bizarre exercises to grueling physical challenges, Stan's journey to becoming a fearless fighter was about to get crazier and far more hilarious. Training with the Kung Fu master wasn't what Stan expected. It was far worse. The master forced him to drink raw food smoothies made by Mindy, eat live scorpions, and even snack a snake for lunch. Every day was a bizarre and grueling challenge that pushed Stan to his limits. Mindy gives Stan an ultimatum: either the master goes or she does. One night, Stan stages a fake robbery to help Mindy understand the theory feels when he thinks about prison. But when she realizes it's all an act, she's immediately packing her bags. She tells Stan she can't stay with him anymore, and the master, however, is thrilled by her departure without distractions. He believes Stan's training can become even more intense for the next 5 months. Stan undergoes grueling training sessions. Over time, he surprises the master by holding his own in combat. As a final test, Stan returns to the karate dojo that once kicked him out. This time he easily defeats the instructor, proving his skills with his training complete. Stan feels confident and ready to face prison. On the day of his sentencing, the master and Stan's lawyer drop him off at court, while Mindy secretly watches from her car as he enters the courthouse. After his sentencing, Stan is transported to prison on a bus. While on the ride, another inmate tries to touch him inappropriately, but Stan quickly fights back, showing off his newfound skills. At the prison, the inmates are greeted by Warden Gask. The warden, calm but stern, politely tells them not to cause trouble for the guards. However, he makes it clear that beyond that they're free to do whatever they want to one another. The harsh reality of prison life hits Stan during the cavity check, where the new inmates are ordered to strip and bend over. When it's Stan's turn, the guards are horrified by his modified behind, which he intentionally made look unpleasant to deter predators afterward. After the guards let him through, Stan is marched down a long, echoing hallway. The place smells like sweat and old metal, and the sound of inmates yelling and banging on their cell bars fills the air. Stan tries to keep his tough guy act going, but you can see he's nervous as he looks around. Stan is assigned to his cell, where he meets his roommate Larry. Right away, Stan asserts his dominance by ordering Larry to take the lower bunk. Later that day at the yard, Larry explains the dynamics of the prison. He points out the different groups: the African-American gang, a crew of Mexican thugs, a group of Nazis, and a clique of racists. He also mentions a group of scientists who intimidate others by talking endlessly about intellectual topics and can sue you if you can't keep up. However, Stan asks Larry who is the most dangerous man in the prison. Larry warns Stan about the most dangerous sexual predator in their block, Big Raymond. Stan walked right up to Big Raymond, who was still towering over the trembling newcomer. As the yard watched, Stan did something no one dared to do. He reached out and lightly tapped Raymond on the shoulder.
Excuse me.
Bug off, bitch.
The yard fell silent again. Big Raymond froze for a moment, like he couldn't believe someone had actually touched him.
Just call me.
Yeah, I said it.
Raymond's crew exchanged glances, smirking, already anticipating what was about to happen. Stan called attention of everyone in the yard and uses his word to provoke him. When Big Raymond tries to attack him from behind, he defeats Raymond with ease using his training technique. The victory catches the attention of Patterson, the leader of the Nazi group, who invites Stan to join them. Instead, Stan surprises everyone by beating Patterson up too. Shortly after, Stan is approached by the African-American group, who are angry that he fought Big Raymond. Trying to lighten the mood, Stan jokingly claims that he's also black. The group, however, doesn't find it funny. Their leader, Cleon, orders his men to attack, and another fight breaks out. Stan takes them all down effortlessly while the guards watch the action, clearly entertained but refuse to step in. Stan defused them in no time and face with Cleon. He knocked his gold tooth out. The yard erupted in gasps and cheers. Following these incidents, Stan's reputation soars. The inmates start calling him Big Stan, and everywhere he goes they move out of his way. The newcomer inmate Robbie, whom Stan saved from Big Raymond earlier, approaches him to express his gratitude, but Stan brushes him off, insisting that he only fought for himself later. The prison warden Gask summons Stan to his office. He reveals that Stan's placement in this prison wasn't random. The warden plans to take over the prison property to build a luxury estate and needs Stan's expertise as a realtor to review the documents for flaws in exchange. Warden Gask promises to release Stan after just 1 year. Intrigued, Stan agrees to help, though the warden refuses to share exactly how he plans to clear the prison of inmates. Meanwhile, the inmate groups decide to unite against Stan to teach him a lesson. One day, while Stan is showering, Patterson attacks him with a knife crafted from a melted toothbrush and razor blades. Stan, prepared for anything, pulls out nunchaku he made from soap bars and a shoelace. Using his training, he quickly defeats Patterson, leaving him injured and sent to the hospital. Missing his wife, Stan contacts his lawyer to ask if she sent him divorce papers. To his relief, she hasn't. Feeling a renewed sense of hope, Stan begins working on the warden's project. During this time, he is introduced to Dang, a former Vietnamese mafia member turned politician who is Gask's partner in a scheme to sabotage the prison. While working, Stan overhears Gask and Dang discussing their plans. They intend to provoke inmate violence, forcing the guards to shoot several prisoners. This would give the prison board of directors a reason to shut down the facility, allowing Gask to take over the land for his personal project. Shocked by the severity of their plans, Stan feels responsible for protecting the inmates, even though many of them resent him. Determined to act, Stan organizes a meeting with the inmates to set new rules and boundaries. First, he bans all violent video games and movies, calling them harmful influences. Then he declares that sexual assault is now strictly forbidden, warning that anyone guilty of it will answer directly to him. The inmates initially push back, but Stan encourages them to explore consensual relationships instead. Although the idea is strange to them, they grudgingly agree. During lunch, Robbie and a few inmates thank Stan for implementing the no assault rule. Stan brushes off their gratitude, claiming it's just about maintaining control, but Robbie sees through his tough exterior. He recognizes that Stan genuinely cares about the well-being of the inmates. Even Big Raymond, once feared as the most dangerous predator, happily enters a consensual relationship with his new boyfriend. Under Stan's guidance, the couple soon becomes part of Stan's growing circle of allies. Shortly after, Stan receives a letter from Mindy responding to his apology. she expresses her willingness to visit him, giving Stan hope for reconciliation. Over the next few days, the prison begins to change. Conflicts are resolved peacefully and inmates frequently seek Stan's advice. Slowly but surely the atmosphere in the prison shifts into one of unexpected harmony. One day Mindy visits Stan in prison and they share a heartfelt moment together. However, their time is cut short when Warden Gask storms into Stan's cell. Furious about Stan's influence over the inmates, Gask accuses him of sabotaging their plan to destabilize the prison. Gask issues a chilling threat, warning that Dang will kill Stan if he doesn't follow their orders. The next day Stan consults his lawyer, who advises him to cooperate with Warden Gask, explaining that the warden holds significant power. Feeling defeated, Stan announces to the inmates that their problems are no longer his concern and tells them to return to their old ways. The harmony Stan built quickly unravels as fights break out, undoing all his progress. Robbie approaches Stan in the cafeteria, hoping to talk some sense into him. Instead, Stan rudely throws Robbie's plate and tells him to leave. Even Larry, Stan's cellmate, is visibly disappointed by his behavior. When Larry tries to walk away, Stan stops him and warns him to stay clear of the metal fence. At noon, sensing that Stan is under duress, Larry informs the other inmates and they begin to plan a response together. Warden Gask arranges a meeting between Stan and the parole board to discuss Stan's potential early release. While Stan is occupied with the board, Warden Gask leads the prison's board of governors on a tour of the facility. His plan is to execute his violence scheme at noon, inciting conflicts among the inmates near the fence. The goal is to provoke a deadly response from the guards, allowing the governors to witness the chaos and justify shutting down the prison. During the parole board meeting, Stan intentionally acts like a terrible person, ensuring he is dismissed. Quickly, this allows him to rush out and warn the inmates to stay away from the fence on his way to the yard. However, he's intercepted by Dang, who reveals that he too has been trained by the master, which makes him his number student. The two engage in an intense fight. Dang initially overpowers Stan with his superior skills, but Stan digs deep, drawing on his training to turn the tide. He ultimately knocks Dang out and continues toward the yard. By the time Stan arrives, the inmates have already gathered near the fence, armed and ready for a confrontation. The guards prepare to open fire, but just as tensions peak, the inmates surprise everyone by breaking into a choreographed dance to a lively Mexican song. The unexpected performance stuns everyone, leaving Gask fuming with rage. Frustrated and unable to regain control, Gask grabs a gun and fires wildly into the air, further alarming the board members to witness Gask's unhinged behavior, and immediately decides to take action against him. Before Warden Gask can retaliate against Stan, Mindy appears, stepping in to save him. It's revealed that Mindy has been training with the master for the past 6 months, mastering combat techniques of her own. Her skills allow her to protect Stan from Warden Gask's wrath. The story then jumps 3 years, Robbie the newcomer becoming Kung Fu master while Stan watches everyone training together. Stan has completed his prison sentence and he is finally heading home. As he prepares to leave, his fellow inmates gathered to bid him farewell. Even Patterson, who was once his rival, shows his respect by revealing a tattoo of Stan's face on his belly, a tribute to the man who changed the prison dynamics. Outside the prison gates, the master and Mindy are waiting to pick Stan up. To his surprise and joy, Mindy introduces him to their 3-year-old daughter. The moment symbolizes their reunion and the new chapter in their family life, filled with hope and happiness. They live happily after. Subscribe to Film Flip Recap for more related content. Thanks for watching.